Welcome to the meeting. Please ensure your mobile phones are switched onto silent and avoid any disruption in the meeting. If the fire alarm sounds, you will be directed where to go. Please follow the instructions given by the officers. Please can I take this opportunity to remind members of the protocol to be followed at the meeting and of the procedures in place in relation to speaking, which must be adhered to at all times. It is with great sadness that I have to inform the Council of the recent death of Councillor Paul Lister, Ward Councillor for East Wolds and Coastal. Our thoughts are with his family and friends at this very sad time. I would like to ask Councillors Everson and Owen, as fellow Ward Councillors, to say a few words in his memory. Councillor Everson, please.
Thank you. And excuse my back, everybody. It still feels very unreal to think that Paul isn't with us, but I'm pleased to be able to say just a few words about him. I've known Paul for some years before he became a councillor, as a resident of the ward I represent and a fellow Conservative. And I think once you met Paul, you just never forgot him. He then came forward to successfully take up the vacancy on East Wolds and Coastal left by Margaret Chapman. And at that stage, I didn't know Paul particularly well. I just knew that he had a family, ran a business, and was certainly always very interested in planning matters. But from the word go, Paul fitted in. He kindly let me organise him completely with our weekly timetable for attending parish council meetings. He never complained, he never let us down, and he handled everything with no fuss at all. He just got on with things and worked as part of a team. And the parish councils soon got to know that he was someone who could be relied upon to help them. I don't quite know when it happened, but over the years my relationship with Paul changed from him being an acquaintance to becoming a friend. He certainly had a mind of his own, strong views and principles on certain matters. An intelligent man, he always researched issues thoroughly, and when he felt it necessary, would voice an opinion. He never, ever raised his voice, lost his temper, or took offence if people didn't agree with him. He was totally loyal and dependable. His family were of the highest importance to him, I think followed by his dogs, his business, and work as a councillor. And he was an excellent councillor. I had so much respect for him, and will miss him so much. He was an amazing colleague and a good friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Owen, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And like Councillor Everson, I just jotted down a few words, actually, that I thought of when thinking of Paul, and I'll just go through those. First of all, I put dedicated, because he committed himself fully to everything he took on. He was dedicated to public service, from a young councillor on the old East Yorkshire Borough Council, through parish councils, to his untimely death as an East Riding councillor. He was supportive, always there as a ward colleague for support and help. He was methodical. He researched everything in detail for himself, committees he sat on, and issues from parish councils and residents. He was patient and honest. As Councillor Everson said, he never raised his voice when arguing a point. He was a creative businessman. New businesses were a challenge to him. He started as a farmer, then worked through IT and equipment specialist to a house builder. But above all, he was a proud family man. It drove his passion to ensure all youngsters had the chance of a home, especially through affordable housing. Hence the family request to donate to the charity Shelter. My thoughts are with his wife Joanne and family, and will be especially tomorrow at this time as his funeral comes to a close. Like Councillor Everson, we have lost a colleague who became a friend. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. Please can I ask everyone to join me in standing for a minute's silence in memory of Councillor Lister, and please remain standing for prayers. Thank you. And the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you. Caroline, could you confirm any apologies or absence, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies have been received on behalf of Councillors Boynton, Beauville, Coultish, Gill, Green, Healing, B. Jeffreys, D. Jeffreys, Nolan, Rogers, Sargentson and P. West.
Thank you. Now we move on to number 1 in the agenda, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, please? Item 2, minutes. I move that the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of May 2021 are approved and signed as a correct record.
Beg to second, Chair.
Thank you. All those in favour? Any against, please? Any abstentions? Thank you, that is carried. Item 3, petitions. There are no petitions. Item 4, questions by electors. A question has been submitted by an elector. Mrs. Thackeray, would you like to ask your question, which may include up to 2 minutes for your introductory remarks?
Thank you. My name is Melanie Thackeray, and my husband is the Associate Medical Director and Lead Cardiologist for the Humber-wide Cardiology Service. In Hull and East Riding, heart disease is the leading cause of death for men and the second leading cause of death for women. Over the last 10 years, there has been an increasing focus on the role of air pollution as a risk factor to health, particularly nitrogen dioxide and particulate matter from vehicle emissions. British Heart Foundation research has shown how these particles can damage the heart and circulatory system and increase the risk of fatal heart attacks and strokes. Particulate matter 2.5 has also been linked with many other health problems such as asthma and dementia, with the risk being proportional to the proximity and intensity of traffic emissions. BHF research recommends, supported by the 2019 DEFRA Clean Air Strategy, that all levels of government and public bodies act now to improve air pollution. They state that our health cannot wait. There is now clear need for urgent action to be taken to tackle air pollution as a public health emergency. Recent months have seen approval of large employment sites to the east of Hull, namely the Yorkshire Energy Park and Heddon Haven, with further significant developments in the advanced stages of planning and more likely with a recent announcement about Freeports. With a heavy emphasis on warehousing and distribution, these will greatly increase the number of HGV movements along the major transport routes, in particular the A63-M62 corridor and the A1079. In his final report, as our Director of Public Health, Dr. Tim Allison recommends that partners across the East Riding should pay more explicit attention to the harmful effects of air pollution in development of plans and policies. And in his report, he stated that it had been estimated by Public Health England that there were 172 deaths each year attributable to air pollution in the East Riding. No one can forget the tragic death in Lewisham of 9-year-old Ella Adukisi Deborah, the first UK person to have air pollution recorded as the cause of death on her death certificate. Perfectly timed. My question to the leader of the council is this. As a resident of North Ferriby, a village which sits along the A63 corridor, and mother of a child who will walk along the A63 to South Hunsley School, please could you tell me the current levels of nitrogen dioxide and particulate matter 2.5 along this corridor, and tell me how does the council propose to protect my daughter and all other residents living and educated in the East Riding from these harmful vehicle emissions that will now, without dispute, be increased following the approved applications at Heddon, through urgently needed revisions to the local transport plan, through the refreshed East Riding local plan and through careful consideration of air quality impact in all individual planning applications, and so reduce the exposure to nitrogen dioxide and particulate matter 2.5 and reduce unnecessary premature deaths. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Owen, please.
Thank you, and thank you, Mrs Thackeray, for taking time out to come all the way to Bridlington today to put your question. It's appreciated. In response, can I say that the Council has carried out extensive monitoring of air quality across the East Riding, including the A63 corridor, and at no time has the measured air quality been poor enough for an air quality management zone to be required. Overall air quality is generally good in the East Riding. The major pollutant with the highest levels within the East Riding is nitrogen dioxide, which is monitored at 92 locations. The Council has also invested in a new monitor for particulate matter, and this will be installed in the near future at the highest identified priority sites. The process of updating the East Riding local plan considers air quality through the site allocation selection process. Question 15 of the site assessment methodology considers the potential impact a site may have on the surrounding air quality. The forward planning team will work closely with the public protection team who monitor air quality throughout the process of the local plan update and the related site assessment process. Air pollution can sometimes be an important material consideration when determining planning applications. Consultation between the planning case officer and public protection, and when required, the Environment Agency, ensures that this issue is thoroughly considered as part of the development management process. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 5, communications. It is with great sadness that I have to inform members of the sad passing of former councillor David Robson, who represented the Bridlington South Ward between 2015 and 2019. Our thoughts are with his family and friends at this difficult time. Item 6, minutes of the Cabinet and committees. I move that the minutes of the meetings listed at item 6 on the Council's summons be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved and adopted.
Beg to second, Chair.
Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? And any abstentions, please? That is carried, thank you. Item 7, the Leaders' Update. Councillor Owen, please.
Thank you, Chairman. As this is my first Leaders' Update, I'm sure you would like to have some feel for my vision for the authority and the East Riding. Having been a councillor for a number of years, I'm sure you will understand that I'm not about to advocate revolutionary change, which may disappoint some. But firstly, I want to build on the culture of dedication and excellence that is inherent in the staff of this council and has been borne out across the patch throughout the pandemic. And I want to thank all staff and applaud the innovation and application of new ways of working driven from the top down. 2, priorities have and always will be delivering jobs and prudent financial management, setting clear priorities with the corporate team and ensuring that they have the financial means to deliver those priorities. I want to continue the good officer-member relationships that have been established over many years. We, the members, setting our priorities and then allowing the staff and officers freedom to deliver them, free of interference from members who will, though, ensure performance oversight is in place, both operationally and financially well scrutinised. Health and well-being and tackling inequalities, both economic and health, will always be a priority of mine. Even prior to the pandemic, life expectancy was beginning to fall back and the gap between the most affluent and the poorest widening across the whole of the UK. And the East Riding is not immune from that. Duncan Selby, until recently the head of Public Health England, always used the quote that to give anyone the best chance in life, the simplest solution was a job, a home, and a friend. That, to me, is the simplest guide for setting priorities, translating into economic growth and business support, suitable and accessible housing, and support for the vulnerable. As regards tackling inequalities, we need to remember what we as elected members actually have influence over. Early years, education, culture, leisure, street scene, open spaces, social care, public health, licensing, planning, to name but a few. All things that can affect our residents' well-being. When setting our scrutiny objectives, think what areas can be looked at that will impact positively on our residents. Let's utilise our new technology to invite in practitioners of best practice from around the country or from across the world to our meetings. One thing the pandemic has done is make the whole world accessible to us via technology. Over the next few months, we will be following the path with government to discuss possible devolution or combined authority discussions. I have just sent a letter to Luke Hall on behalf of myself and Hull leader Darren Hale, inviting him, not Darren Hale, but the Minister, to come and meet with us as we submit additional requests that would form part of any devolution deal. I cannot emphasise strongly enough that there will be milestones on the way where we can, as a council, decide to go no further if we are not seeing possible benefits. There will be time for consultation when we know what the details of any deal would be. I can assure all members that at no time would I endorse any discussion that would stray in any shape or form into authority boundary issues or talks of merger. As these discussions take their course, we will also be working with the new Hull and East Riding LEP as they move forward establishing their role. Already they have a board, on which I sit, that has a wider cross-section of expertise from health, further education and small businesses, together with the establishment of a business subgroup chaired by Thomas Martin, which will be the sounding board for businesses with a large membership covering a range of business, large and small. James Newman, the chairman of the LEP, has already identified that he will be giving equal focus to the East Riding as well as Hull, understanding our different needs from Hull. That is such things as tourism, rural, coastal, and the mass of small and medium enterprises that we have. In discussions with Hull and in a climate of uncertainty as to where funding streams will be channeled in coming months, we have established regular meetings between the two authorities and the LEP, which will be alternately chaired and hosted by myself and Hull's leader, Darren Hale. We wish to keep a clear focus on our leadership role as local authorities. Of course, there will always be pan-Humber issues that affect the estuary and ports. So the Humber Leadership Board remains, with the four authority leaders together with representatives from the Hay, Humber, Hull and East Yorkshire LEP and the Lincolnshire LEP. One typical issue of pan-Humber interest is, of course, the Freeport status, which affects sites on the north and south banks. A Freeport steering group has been established to start up the Humber Freeport CLG, which will be the statutory company established to manage and promote the Freeports. A recent visit by ministers from MHCLG reported that we were well ahead of other Freeport areas in terms of progress being made. There is interest already, even before the final details of what the Freeport offers has been finalised by government. But it is important that it is new businesses we are attracting, not just existing businesses relocating for the tax and other benefits. We still await the end of lockdowns and must remember that we are still living in a world of COVID as more and more freedoms are returned to us. Our tourism and leisure attractions are reopening, and we are doing all we can to support our high streets and businesses. We are slowly moving back to meet in person, and what a relief that is. But we must remember to stick to the rules and not become complacent, which is so easy to do. I wanted to end with a personal anecdote, which I have shared with some already, but I think it's an example of what we do, what our role of councillors is, and what you can do with excellent staff in an authority. About 3 weeks ago at the bank holiday weekend, I had an email sent to me on the morning of the Saturday of the bank holiday from a very disappointed mother with a disabled child who said she'd come to Bridlington for many years and wanted to take her child on the beach in one of our beach buggies that are specially suited to going on the sand, only to be told that in the COVID situation they weren't available, which she was very upset about. I contacted, I will mention a name because everybody will know him as Head of Service, Ian Rayner, who within an hour got back to me to say he had spoken to the mother, he had sorted things out, and I thought nothing more about it at that point other than, that was it. The following Saturday, I opened my post, and in the post was a thank you card with a picture on the front of a disabled child sitting in his beach buggy, with a message inside that just said, "Thank you so very much for helping me to have fun on the beach. Lots of love from Lenny and family." Now that's why we do what we do, and that's what excellent staff and excellent councillors do. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Healy, please.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the Liberal Democrat group, I'd like to say congratulations to Councillor Owen on becoming leader of the council, and we wish him well in all he does. Thank you for outlining your vision to us, Councillor Owen. If you were to sort of put it in one sentence, what would you say is going to be your most significant challenge over the next 2 years? Thank you.
It's an interesting one. I don't know if you want a short list or a long list, actually, but I think one of the most significant challenges facing us over the next couple of years is going to be getting everybody that's on hospital waiting lists and things through a system. I have a personal interest in the health and well-being agenda, but economic recovery will or will not happen depending on the support we give. But I think as time moves forward, that backlog of people that haven't even been to their GPs, haven't seen anybody, mental health issues from people that are now probably out of work, coming out of COVID. I think a lot of the issues will be around the health and well-being agenda, which we can't control ourselves, but we are part of that system that can. And I think a lot of the pressures will need to be put on those systems to make sure we can all lead healthier and better lives. I want to promote particularly what they're doing in adult social care of shifting all that money we spend towards the end of life to actually preventing people getting ill. I think if we can move those agendas along, I will be very satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bayram, please.
Thank you. The question relates to devolution. Will the public be made fully aware of the reason behind devolution over and over again until they understand the reason, until they are fully aware of that reason? Thank you.
Interestingly, I fully agree with you, Councillor Bayram. I think one of the big issues in this whole debate is misconceptions of what devolution or combined authorities are all about. Get made even more complicated by where we have boundary changes for our MPs as well, which just confuses the whole the waters. So, yes, my intention, I think our intention would be at every stage in the process, however far it goes, clear explanations to the public, clear explanations as to what it actually means, and really telling people what it doesn't mean is as important. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hammond, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Can the leader please explain where the important issue of commercialism fits in to his vision for the future of this council?
Yes, I can. I've always been clear in my mind that commercialism, in its true sense, is part and parcel of the everyday working of any local authority. Over a number of years, different authorities have tried different ways of doing one-off projects like buying shopping centres and car parks and things like this. I think true commercialism is looking for opportunities that aren't competing with local businesses, but will generate income from the council. And that's a combination of building on those areas where we've already got commercial interest and improving those, and looking for new ones. We now have a new team that's looking at those opportunities, but at the end of the day, rather than a specific topic in its own, I think it is and should be part and parcel of the everyday thinking and culture of the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we move on to questions under Procedure Rule 7.8. Councillor Fox, please.
Thank you, Chairman. My mask. Got the mask. Following a recent visit by Councillor Sargison and myself to the bridge in Snaith, a home for young adults with learning disabilities and autism, we were so impressed by the support of the wonderful staff team who make such a difference to the lives of the residents by providing care, support, and new opportunities. Therefore, will the leader join me in paying thanks to the staff whose outstanding caring support so helps improve the lives of young people in their care in this and similar settings?
Councillor Owen, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Fox, for that question. Personally, I think it's important that we do acknowledge and thank social care staff who support people young and old from across the East Riding. Carers from across the social care sector, whether caring for people in their own homes, in residential care settings, or in the community, have worked tirelessly throughout the pandemic, and it is heartening to hear of the continued good work that is happening to support the most vulnerable of our citizens. So I would be very pleased to offer thanks to these staff and this staff team and all of those in carer roles across our area. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Abraham, please.
Can the leader inform me what change has been brought about as a result of the resolution of full council on the 9th of October 2019 through waste management due diligence and in accordance with our environmental policy to monitor the impact of our waste disposal on our residents, on the environment and ultimately on climate change, and how proactive the council has been in monitoring and enforcing planning conditions and permit requirements along with the Environment Agency, on the numerous breaches which are evidently occurring and impacting on my residents in South Hunsley Ward.
Councillor Matthews, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Abraham, for your question. I first like to refer back to the Council's resolution in October 2019. I believe there were 4, but it's the 4th one I believe is key to this question. It basically says that the Council should undertake proactive monitoring, takes timely enforcement action, and works in partnership with the Environment Agency. Chairman, I can confirm that the waste disposal team continues to hold regular contact meetings with all waste disposal contractors, which includes making sure that any Environment Agency communications relating to the environment permit conditions is shared. Regular meetings are also held with the Environment Agency directly, so they are able to directly update the council waste management facilities, and the council is able to get direct assurance that the facilities handling council waste are meeting permit requirements and operating safely. Chairman, council officers also undertake regular site inspections at waste disposal sites run by contractors and carry out joint site inspections with FCC and Transwaste. Those are the two contractors we employ, which FCC use to process the council's residual waste into refuse-derived fuel. Although these were reduced in 2020 with the COVID-19 pandemic, FCC continued their visits throughout, and we have now restarted the programme of inspections. Waste management facilities also require the benefit of planning permission in addition to the environmental permit issued by the Environment Agency. Consequently, site operations also need to meet the requirements of the planning conditions that control, amongst other things, the location of buildings, plant, machinery, and the hours of operation. If a member of the public raises concerns with the council that a waste management site is not operating in accordance with the planning conditions, then the council's planning enforcement team will investigate and, if necessary, take appropriate action to rectify the situation. Finally, Chairman, I can confirm that I have made arrangements to visit the site myself, subject to COVID restrictions being lifted, hopefully on the 23rd of July. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. A further question, Councillor Normand, please.
I have a supplemental following on.
Thank you.
Does the leader agree that the latest brochure entitled A Healthy Bridlington, with its accompanying questionnaire, fails to ask residents which NHS services are important to them and avoids the ongoing removal of services from Bridlington and District Hospital altogether? And given that the brochure carries this council's logo, believe that it represents value for money or enhances our reputation in any way?
Councillor Owen to reply, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I think it's fair to say that recent years have seen system partners come together to work together across agencies, across the whole East Riding, to articulate the ambitions for East Riding residents in terms of their health and social care needs. A Healthy Bridlington, the brochure and the work around it, is putting a focus on prioritising a range of factors that impact on the health and well-being of residents of Bridlington and the surrounding area. The consultation invites comments from residents on a range of issues, and if people wish to comment on the use of the hospital, then the ability to do so is there. As a council, we should encourage consultation and participation by our residents when it is invited. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. You have a supplementary question, Councillor Nolan, please.
Please, thank you, Chair. Interesting use of words there, Councillor Owen. Given that the Chief Executive of York and Scarborough Hospitals Trust has stated, and I quote, "We are not consulting with the local population or partner organisations," what do you think that the reason was for this brochure, given that the plan for Bridlington and District Hospital being surveyed on was, in the eyes of the Trust, a done deal?
I would be very unhappy at hearing those comments, Councillor, and we'll take them forward if that's exactly what has been said, because I think that's just exactly what we don't want to be hearing from the hospital trusts at the moment. And I will follow that up with you afterwards, if that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move on to outside body questions, and there are no questions from outside bodies. Item 10. Councillor McMaster, the portfolio holder for Planning, Infrastructure and Housing, will make an oral report. Councillor McMaster, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. This is my first report as a portfolio holder. I've taken officers' notes and reports, and I've kind of abbreviated it because my portfolio is fairly lengthy and only have 5 minutes. Quite happy to give you a brief outline and then sit with individuals who may require a bit more information at the end of this or at a future date. So very briefly, public transport, like every industry, COVID has paralyzed the public transport industry, and the bus service providers are feeling the pinch. The East Riding Council has been working with East Yorkshire Buses to review some of the services and improve on the uptake and the services. Briefly, Withensea, Heddon and Swanland are receiving new bus routes, which I think, from my understanding, are in effect immediately. Still on the public transport side, the East Riding of Yorkshire Council has secured funding from the European Regional Development Fund to give the Bridlington bus station a facelift. I will emphasize this is not major renovations, it's cosmetic attention. We were hoping that this would be concluded or at least started for this tourist season, but unfortunately it has not and will definitely be in situ for the next season. On fleet, in 2020, some of you remember we introduced a fleet of 4 small electric vans into our fleet. These have gone very well and are serving a good purpose, really good for checking the street light functions at night where we can travel down small roads without waking up residents. We are, at the moment in this period of time, testing a Mercedes EV2, which is an 8-seater minibus. The minibus is apparently able to carry 8 passengers and a driver for a distance of just shy of 200 miles on a charge. We could really do with some 16-seater buses, but unfortunately none available at this moment in time. On the planning side, our planning department is incredibly busy at the moment. This year we've experienced very nearly 30% increase in submission applications this year. The planning team anticipate that this will continue, and if it does, we're looking at very close to 8,000 applications in a year. The East Riding Council is currently the 12th busiest planning authority in the United Kingdom. The department has had to draft in some human resources from other departments to help. We're hoping this is a brief necessity. We've taken on an outside body to help with the validation process to bring the applications back up to current. The planning process, we're in talks at the moment to review our planning process, and we have had an outside body come in and have a look at, observe some of our meetings on YouTube as well as in person. And a few recommendations have been put in place. A couple of them we've already introduced, i.e. the chairman introducing the teams up the front helps the public to understand who's who and what goes on. And the officers give a brief overview of every case before it takes place, and again, that has been well received. We're also contemplating the system by which members call in applications. In the recent past, we've had a couple of members call in applications and then either not turn up or not submit any reasons for calling it in. We are considering asking members to provide legitimate planning reasons for calling in an application to try to minimize the amount of work the planning teams are currently experiencing. Most of you will remember the Gladman appeal. The council lodged an appeal with the High Court in April to seek to challenge the decision from the Planning Inspectorate to approve the 2 large housing schemes in Pocklington and Swanland. The court has looked at our case and concluded that the council does have a legitimate argument, and the case has been listed for a hearing in the High Court, so that's really good news and well done to our teams. On the enforcement side, likewise, with enforcement, teams have been very busy. Last month we had 4 enforcement notices issued and a section 215, which is a tidied land notice. So that's quite a task to have achieved.
Councillor McMaster, you have 30 seconds left.
Thank you. Infrastructure and development, there's some major infrastructure on the go, and happy to sit with individuals. The local plan, as everybody knows, is run from the 28th of May to the 6th of August, and we quite heavily involved in helping rough sleepers. If anybody has any other interest in those subjects, please get in touch with me afterwards, and we'll have a chat remotely or in person. Thank you.
Councillor Healy, please.
Thank you, Councillor McMaster, and welcome to your role as portfolio holder. As portfolio holder responsible for planning, what is your overall view of the government's proposed planning reforms? And do you have any concerns that they may amount to a developer's free-for-all? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor. Yes, we do have some reservations. Some of the elements we feel have some merits, and we'll extract what we believe may be of benefit. However, in the main, we're not happy. We do believe this takes away the responsibility from councils and the planning system, and it is my understanding that we have already submitted our revised views back to government.
Thank you. Next is Councillor Everson, the portfolio holder for economic growth and tourism, will make an oral report. Councillor Everson, please.
Thank you. So a very quick tour of Business and High Street and what they look like as we continue on this extraordinary journey, and what support East Riding of Yorkshire Council continues to provide. Thanks to Hull and East Yorkshire LEP, I have a general labour market update of the statistics for the period up to May 31st this year, with good news that people claiming benefit for May was the largest drop in 13 months, down by 650 people in East Riding. Youth unemployment figures also down by 115 in East Riding. Self-employment and furlough income support, since the start of the scheme, a cumulative total of 97,500 jobs have been supported at various times across the Hay area. Yorkshire and Humber also has the third lowest of employments furloughed of the 9 English regions. And in May, there were recorded the highest number of job vacancy postings online, with the top posted occupations listed as nurses, care workers, primary and nursery education, admin and van drivers. There will obviously be need to continue support for sectors as we move forward, and the Council business team will offer that support, and I'm pleased to say that it is much calmer now than it was 12 months ago. Since the beginning of March 2020, the team have dealt with around 3,000 inquiries, and during peak times last year, receiving between 50 and 80 new inquiries a week. However, that has dropped now to around 20 a week. There have been many heart-rending stories of businesses who have gone through some very difficult times, but also a lot of resilient businesses, and so far very few of the ones the Council has been working with have ceased to trade. I've received messages of thanks for the efficiency this Council has shown getting aid grants out and the support which has been provided. Emphasis is now on maintaining or offering support going forward. High street businesses are further being supported by the team developing a series of events, webinars, through use of the funds from the Welcome Back Fund, targeting retail and tourism businesses. Also, their associated supply chains to ensure the support of maximum amount of businesses that directly contribute to our high streets. The local growth teams are working closely with town councils to identify eligible programmes and recovery for town centres. And Love Your High Street Fund continues to help many business projects. Plus the Council's Community Fund Scheme, which offers grants to town, parish councils and community organisations to aid getting people back out and safely enjoying social events once more. Tourism, and as we enter the recovery stage, bookings are looking extremely positive for the summer, and early indications that half-term week was one of the busiest on record. However, that does come with challenges, including traffic problems. Becoming evident with the hospitality sector is that many businesses have suffered from staff not returning to work, and recruitment within the sector is an issue. A dedicated visitor economy business advisor has been appointed, and that person is working closely with tourism businesses through VHAY to provide support and opportunities. The tourism team engage on a weekly basis with tourism sector in East Yorkshire. Around 1,100 are now signed up to the Business e-News, and also announced recently that VHAY will be taking over the City of Culture volunteer programme from September, providing significant volunteer opportunities across the whole region, as well as in playing a vital role in the ambassadors and welcomers to Hull and East Yorkshire. From a marketing perspective, with visitor numbers increased this year, there's a great opportunity, and firstly create a good impression, but also gathering data from visitors for future use. Our Goole Town deal, now that really is an exciting piece of news. And on the 8th of June, it was announced there would be a town deal of £25 million for Goole. It's one of the very few towns to receive the full grant applied for. This money will be spent levelling up the town to match the exciting business investment already happening at Goole 36. There is a town investment plan with 10 particularly good projects, all agreed by the Goole Town Deal Board, following extensive local consultation, and all directed to improve lives and lifestyle. This is without doubt a one-off opportunity to change the future of Goole, with business and community investment coming together at the same time. What is also very encouraging are the very positive messages now coming from many local residents on social media, who can see the future opportunities for the town.
30 seconds, Councillor Everson.
Thank you very much. Well, I've come to the end, but I just did want to say that if at any time anybody has any issues about their area, that the wards they represent, and they want to speak to me, then please do get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Everson.
Councillor Bayram. Councillor Abraham.
Oh, Councillor Abraham, please. Took me by surprise there.
Councillor Bayram.
Thank you, Councillor Everson, for that update. Can you inform me, post-COVID, how buoyant is the interest in our key employment sites, enterprise zones and free ports? Or are we seeing a dip in the interest still because of the pandemic? Thank you.
Thank you. I think early days for Freeport, certainly. There's a lot of interest from businesses in Freeport, and I've personally never seen as much interest from business making inquiries about moving into this area. Obviously, with that interest comes job opportunities, and we are talking considerable numbers here on a variety of, of potential businesses. I feel sure that we are going to see a great influx and of variety. People are taking advantage. We do seem to be very much on the map at the moment, and it is really genuinely an exciting time.
Thank you. Councillor Bayram, please.
You. Councillor Everson, you made reference to employment at the beginning of your speech, and the leader reported putting the priority of the council to deliver jobs and economic prosperity. If that happens, will the employees live outside the authority area, or shall we increase our housing delivery to keep employees inside the authority area?
Thank you, Councillor Bayram. Well, planning's out of my jurisdiction. I can't comment on what planning applications might come forward, but that is obviously down to the local plan and what development is proposed within that. Certainly, of course, we do welcome business coming to this area, and we would hope that people will want to live in the East Riding. We do see already a lot of people living in the East Riding who work elsewhere, so it's good to know that other people also think this is a very nice place to live and bring your family up. But I think regards planning, that is very much down to the local plan, which is obviously being refreshed at the moment, so now is the time to comment.
Thank you. Councillor Weeks, please.
Thank you, Chair. Tourism is an important part of our local economy, and obviously we want to welcome as many tourists to our coastal regions and other tourist hotspots as possible. Could the portfolio holder reassure me, though, that we are working with our coastal communities and our other tourism hotspots, and that the residents that live in those areas, to protect them against parking and traffic problems, antisocial behaviour, and also to allay any fears or concerns about the increase in people and COVID-19?
Thank you, Councillor Weeks. And I think, as I alluded to, with the increased numbers do come problems and challenges, and traffic certainly is one of them. But yes, there is awareness that as visitor numbers increase, the impact that does have on local communities. And I thank you for actually raising that. I think it's a very good point to highlight. And as councillors in those areas, we will probably be one of the first to actually hear about it. So again, I go back to what I said when I finished speaking, that if there are issues in your ward, then please do tell me about them, because that's how we will resolve them. Very often is the case that people, they go to the press or they moan, and we don't get the opportunity to resolve things in the best way, and I think in the proper way. So, you know, if there are issues you know about, then I would really like to hear about them.
Thank you. We will now move on to notices of motions. Councillor Dennis, please.
Thank you, Chairman. The motion is as printed in the agenda. I'm sure you've all seen the publicity on the Queen's new green canopy scheme, strongly supported by His Royal Highness Prince Charles. This motion is not all about how we, the East Riding of Yorkshire Council, support the initiative, which of course we fully endorse. It's more about using our collective powers of persuasion to achieve a high level of active participation across the region, to ensure that the residents of the East Riding support it to the full. It is to encourage everyone, from individuals to community organisations, towns and villages, cities and counties, and of course schools across the region, to pick up their spades and plant as many sapling trees this autumn and up to the Queen's Platinum Jubilee Day, which is coming up in May next year. This planting endeavour is designed to be a concerted effort to boost the nation's tree numbers and at the same time combat the impact of global warming and improve our environment. Tree planting schemes can vary enormously according to the budget and the space available. The Prince has said that this initiative should be considered as a statement of hope and faith in the future, and one that the Queen in her 96th year has approached with gusto for many decades. This area as a whole is not particularly regarded as well endowed with trees, even though the East Riding Council is much involved in various planting schemes in an attempt to remedy this. Particularly, the authority has thrown itself into a number of major tree planting endeavours, including one to increase the numbers of trees right across the north of England from the east coast to the west. It has dawned on me that most of the members of this council are also members of or attend meetings of, from time to time, the majority of town and village councils across the region. The opportunity exists, therefore, for all members to explain the project to a great number of councils and other groups. We could suggest to them that they might be interested in joining the initiative and planting a few saplings in their areas. The project will be explained in more detail in due course, but perhaps they would benefit from prior knowledge of the proposal. Perhaps it would provide them with a little, over the page, a little time to hold a money-raising event such as the Scarecrow competition or coffee morning, designed to raise the necessary funds in time to purchase saplings suitable for planting in the autumn/winter. I researched the cost of young trees, and I've seen figures from £10 each for a young beech tree up to £650 for a gnarled olive. Whether an olive tree is particularly correct or appropriate, I would leave to their discretion. If guidance is needed, maybe 5 trees in a small village, 10 in a large one, and 25 in a town would be the appropriate number and a positive gesture, but any number would do. It's the thought that counts. Even if members themselves could participate, planting 1 or 2 in each of their plots, it would be well recognised and show that we have contributed to this Tree-Believe, not Jubilee, Tree-Believe initiative. It's envisaged that we employ our combined powers of persuasion, we can encourage perhaps 2,000 or more trees in the East Riding, a not inconsiderable number and a gesture that would not go amiss. Even Boris Johnson has added his weight to the project, encouraging as many people as possible to participate. I propose, therefore, that where possible, we members join in the East Riding's contribution to this very welcome and important initiative. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Dennis. Councillor Winter, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very pleased to second this nomination today, and I'll outline briefly my reasons for doing so. The Queen's Green Canopy is an opportunity for us all, in addition to supporting the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, to do our little bit in protecting and preserving the environment we all live in. It is an opportunity for us all to show, promote and encourage town councils, parish councils and local businesses to take part in this extremely worthwhile and useful activity in the purchasing and planting of trees. Funding opportunities will be available from a variety of sources, and hence finance will not be an issue for this particular project. For example, local wind farm funds. The Haywood scheme, which East Riding is promoting, up to £5,000. I think we've all had that email on that recently. And I'm sure all our parish and town councils can also release funds for this excellent scheme. Finally, in conclusion, Mr. Chairman, I respectfully ask all members from all parties to support this excellent and very worthwhile motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes. Councillor Matheson, please.
I very much welcome this motion, and I had originally, when I saw it, considered whether to put an amendment, but I don't think it needs extra wording to say that we support the planting of trees across this county. I speak partly as an individual resident who happens to love trees, and partly as one of the joint chairmen, along with my colleague Councillor Sutton beside me. We are both the chairman of Haywoods, the partnership delivering the Northern Forest in this area, the community forest initiative, which can at times be a rather confusing arrangement because it's a rather nebulous partnership of many organisations. The Queen's Green Canopy is rather like the Northern Forest, a somewhat intangible subject. It's aspirational rather than being something that you can point at and say that is the forest or that is the Queen's Green Canopy. There's no limit on the name. Any tree that you put in the ground, even the ones that my local squirrels insist on trying to fill my garden with oaks, not entirely appropriate, but even that could be classed as the Northern Forest or the Queen's Green Canopy. Something that we deal with regularly within the Haywoods Partnership meetings are the plethora of funding schemes. There are so many, and it can be confusing to the man in the street or the councillor in this room thinking, how do I get some funding for some trees? Most of the funding comes from government through the Woodland Trust or the Forestry Commission, but it comes with particular titles, whether it be Trees for Cities or Trees for Climate Change, and these are often time limited and to fit certain criteria. There's also money from wind farms, which fits in particular geographical areas, and again, to fit certain criteria. And there are private charities also funding a lot of tree planting. Local businesses like William Jackson's, and further afield, Betty's and Taylor's, the tea people, who have started with an ambition to plant 1 million trees, and having passed that, have simply kept going. So every time you buy some Yorkshire tea, you're helping. And then, of course, we have the East Riding, our own small grant scheme, which helps fill the gaps. Some of those little schemes where people don't want an entire field full of trees, they just want a few on the corner. And that is of great benefit to town and parish councils and to local individuals and to schools. It's now in its second year, and since it was oversubscribed last year, and I really hope it keeps going because it's doing a wonderful job. Within the Haywoods Partnership, we have people who can advise on all sorts of things. We have people who supply expertise, experts in biosecurity and in plant diseases, giving us information about threats such as ash dieback and all the other nasties that seem to be heading this direction all the time. We have people who can talk about the funding and supply information on that. And we have people who supply labour as well, whether that be small groups of volunteers through the conservation volunteers, school children who can put things on the ground, and even an organisation which works with military veterans whose tree planting is almost at an industrial scale. They can get trees in the ground so fast, it's very impressive. We must remember, though, that although East Riding is has some of the lowest tree cover in the country, we have to think about why that is. It's partly because we have such fabulous agricultural land, and we don't want to lose that. Nor do we wish to lose any of our chalk grasslands, which have biodiversity to rival any woodland area. So there's a balance needed. So in many cases, the best tree planting for some areas is hedgerows rather than woodland. And those help to create wildlife corridors. But what I would say in support of this motion...
30 seconds, Councillor Matheson.
Thank you. That for anyone thinking of putting trees in the ground, please talk to people from Haywoods. We have staff within East Riding's Trees and Landscape section who are very knowledgeable, but small in number, so keep it brief. And they can help navigate through that funding and help find the right trees for the right places. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jump, please.
It was Councillor Johnson.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Johnson, please.
Sorry.
No, it's face mask.
Thank you. You could speak if you like, Councillor Jump. Well, it's really fantastic that someone who voted against declaring a climate emergency not once but twice has proposed something so important in helping to combat climate change, enhance cooling of streets and buildings, so reducing greenhouse gas emissions for air conditioning, and save water as tree planting. That's without mentioning the community benefits highlighted by Councillors Dennis and Winter, all the other benefits of planting trees which promote well-being and stress reduction, and even a reduction in skin cancer due to the ability of trees to shield us from UVB rays, so benefiting the NHS. I think it's poor that 170 people die in the East Riding due to air pollution every year. And I'm sure the Queen is as distressed as I am when an avoidable death occurs. And trees, which absorb pollutants, including NOx, ammonia, sulfur dioxide and ozone, could help prevent more deaths. As Councillor Matheson has mentioned, the East Riding is the least treed county in the country. But a recent survey in Beverley itself identified space, both public and private, large and small, where several hundred trees could be planted. There is therefore a project by town councillors and the Civic Society to plant 1,300 trees, stroke shrubs, in memory of the founder of Beverley, St John, who died 1300 years ago this year. An oak tree will be planted at the Minster on St John's Translation Day, October the 25th, to further commemorate his 1300 years anniversary. And can I also congratulate Kelmarsh School in Beverley, which recently planted 240 trees, supported by the National Trust, and other schools are also planting trees. But it will be an honour to count these trees as part of the Queen's Green Treeballee, as well as St John's anniversary. And I support Councillor Dennis and Councillor Winter's motion wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Councillor Walker, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is a great motion. It's clear to every ward councillor that there is massive community support for tree planting. That's not going to be our problem at all. The problem is finding plantable land. In Bridlington, we've had great support from this council's asset management team, and I would urge everybody to use their great facilities to look at public land, because when you're looking to get money to plant in land, the easiest one to attack is publicly owned land. So our asset management team can help us greatly in this. So, no need to repeat what the others have said. This is a great motion. Thank you, Councillor Dennis. I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis, would you like to close the debate, please? In that case, I will move to take the vote on this motion. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions, please? Okay. Thank you. That is carried, please. We'll now move on to the next motion. Councillor Healy, please.
Thank you, Chair. As councillors, planning, of course, is important to each one of us. We've got 3 planning committees, 2 subcommittees and a planning committee strategic. So about half of us in this room are on planning committees. I'm on Eastern Area Planning and I enjoy it very much. And early on, I realised the importance of the 2016 local plan and its impact on the communities and the settlements in our towns and villages going right forward until 2029. And I realised fairly quickly that when an outline planning application is put forward on an allocated site, the principle of development has already been established. And that the planning discussions were fairly academic. And to be honest, this comes as a surprise to many of the residents and consultees that actually the decision really had been sort of taken back in 2016. Hardly any of them seemed to realise that they did in fact have an opportunity to comment on the proposals. So something coming forward in 2020, well actually we decided in 2016, there was a consultation. Did you not know about that? No, I didn't. And that has been a fairly consistent thread with outline planning applications. So now we've got the updated local plan, which proposes further development right through for another decade until 2039. That's an awful long time, 2 decades. And there is a consultation period, which we're now 3 weeks into, which concludes on the 6th of August. And my concern and the purpose of this motion is simply that housing development allocation is one of the biggest concerns that our residents have. And that decisions are now about to be taken which residents can have an input into, but as yet are not aware of it. So, you could imagine somebody coming forward in, 2030 with a planning application on an allocated site and, that decision was taken in the summer of 2021. Well, I didn't know about that. And that is why this consultation is so important to our residents. And this motion simply asks that we consider doing more to actually communicate this to them, because it's cast in stone and we're 3 weeks into it already. So then I thought, well, what are we doing to communicate it? And the first thing that dropped through my door was your East Riding, and there is a little bit on there, a third of a page, which kind of pales into insignificance against the impressive double-page spread showing the new officials, the leader and chair and vice chair looking very splendid. So I did ask officers what else we were doing, and we are doing things. There's stuff going on the website, consultees are being notified, a report was sent to the planning committees, a memorandum was circulated via email to all ward members, there's been an advertisement in a press release on the 27th of May in the Hull Daily Mail. There might be another one due as well. Staff have been notified in the July edition of Grapevine. There's been social media, there's a leaflet in Howden Town Council. There are some things going on, but are those things significant enough considering the importance of this? Now, I wouldn't be so presumptuous as to tell officers what marketing and communication plans they should have. But I do think that we need to do something to make sure that people are aware of this. Ideally, every resident with the message. We sent out a direct mail to every household talking about the 393919 number at the start of the emergency, and that was a very important thing to do. So we have actually set a bit of a trend and established that we can do direct communications. Again, I'm not going to say this is what you should do. I'm just saying can we give some thought to ensuring that this message is heard? And you know, the consultation also provides reassurances as well to residents that things might not be happening near them. There's a lot of work gone into this local plan update, and you've probably seen in your in the group offices the beautiful glossy leaflets, glossy documents. And a resident can actually look at any settlement. I was looking at one in my village where I live in Leconfield, and even the developments that are not happening are outlined. So you've got all these fields that are marked and coded. That field is not getting developed because it's too close to the open countryside. So it can provide reassurance as well. What's really important is that we take a community approach to planning. This is behind the question I asked the portfolio holder. People need to feel more involved in the way that developments shape their communities. So this is an opportunity to involve them. I believe that the government planning reforms are nothing short of a developer's free-for-all. And I think the government really need to sit up and take notice of the warnings that they've been given. For example, last week by the voters of Chesham and Amersham. And of course, these reforms would stop local communities from protecting their cherished green spaces. They do nothing for first-time buyers who are desperate for a home of their own in places like the East Riding. Now, I don't want to make a political point about that stunning Liberal Democrat win, so I will balance it up with my final comments. Comments from a former leader of the Conservative Party, William Hague, writing in yesterday's Times on this very issue, where he said, "It would be wise before finalising the forthcoming legislation to take stock and make changes. In a digital age, can we not involve local people much more in shaping nearby developments without losing time? We should help them shape those developments. In a low-carbon age, shouldn't we be building more homes near to workplaces? In a post-pandemic age, can't we have more people living in failing high streets and city centres? And in a scientific age, isn't innovation in housing design now a higher priority? Couldn't there be," he concludes, "a revised, updated policy that wins a broader coalition of support?" I was encouraged by the comments of the portfolio holder that there is a coalition of support really sort of questioning these plans, these reforms. But whatever the outcome of the reforms are, let's at the very least take the steps that we can today to ensure that our communities here in the East Riding have the opportunity to be engaged with the plans that will shape their communities for the next 2 decades. All we're asking is, officers, have a look at this, do a little bit more, make sure that our people are engaged and that they know what's going on. It does affect their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Healy. Councillor Davison, please.
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps can I defer my comments until other people have spoken, Chair?
Thank you. Councillor Bayram, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm looking at this motion in total. Much of it I do appreciate and I do support. The idea of making it the public fully aware of what is actually happening is a good thing. But at the bottom sentence it says the only opportunity for residents to have an influence on the proposed housing allocation contained in the plan covering the next 2 decades, that's 20 years. Now, normally a development plan of this nature is a 15-year plan, and in that 15 years there are 3 5-year sections. Every 5 years you have an update, and I do appreciate that you did mention that anyone who makes any objections or comments that needs clarifying have an opportunity to go to a planning inspector when there'll be a public inquiry, which I expect there will be a public inquiry on this. There won't be probably if nobody objects to it. I'm tied between supporting it or abstaining, but I will listen to whatever anyone else has to say. It is an important thing for this authority. One of the most important things that happens is the local plan. So I'm sure that many of the members will have some comments to make.
Thank you. Councillor Tucker, please.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? Good. I totally agree with this motion that's been presented by Councillor Healy today, but I also think it's worth pointing out, I think it's incumbent on all members sat in this room today to actually help East Riding and also nationally distribute this message. It isn't just for East Riding to get this message out. You know, when we are the advocates of our community, we are the role champions of our community. Now, personally, in our own ward, we've been attending parish council meetings. Recently, I know there's residents of our ward sat here today who are not actually ward councillors for that area. We've been hand-delivering letters explaining what the local plan is about, why it's important that they engage with this consultation plan, because this development plan, this local plan, will shape our areas and our environments. So yes, Councillor Healy, I agree with your motion. And I understand that we need to get information out there. East Riding have put some information out. But on top of that, I think it's more incumbent on us as members to get out there and share this information, explain it. Tomorrow afternoon, myself and ward members are doing a radio interview at 3 o'clock. Part of that radio interview for our Ward Watch, we'll be talking about the local plan. We'll be encouraging residents to engage in that process, to actually sign up and make their comments. You know, so yes, Councillor Healy, I will support your motion, but I will say back to you, be that champion for your local residents. Get out there, do some footwork, put some leaflets out, get on the radio, get to your parish councils, get in the newsletters, because you've got till the 6th of August. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor McMaster, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Quite a lot has actually been done, to be fair. There's a lot of brochures out in libraries, a lot of public places. I personally have been on the radio 3 times. I've done a live radio interview with Drive Time Live, publicizing it. I know it's been on some social media platforms. However, I will take on board the motion and I will sit with officers and rediscuss this and relook at it and see what else we can do to continue the momentum and to increase, if we can, in any way we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davison, if you wish to come in now.
Thank you, Chair. I won't go as far as I was going to go, but I want to take you forward about 2 or 3 years as ward councillors. You get a phone call at tea time. It's always at tea time, isn't it? There's a digger in the field next to me. What's going on? And there's all sorts of folks with high-vis jackets, and I don't know what's going on. We've always walked our dog in there, and as have hundreds of other people walked their dog in that field. And I live next to that field, and my house was built 3 years ago. But nobody told me this was going on. And then you've got to explain that it was in the local plan review 3 years earlier. And did you respond? Did you know about it? I didn't know anything about it. Okay, well, it's going to happen, I'm afraid, because if you didn't respond, and if lots of people didn't respond to the local plan review, then it will go ahead. It may still go ahead. But you must have good reasons. Oh, there's too much traffic, no places in schools, flooding, and the doctor's waiting times. I'm sure that you all, in general terms, agree with the motion that's put forward. But it was disappointing that we had a crematorium on the front page of your East Riding when there'd been ample notice to put something about the local plan review. Also on the website, on East Riding's website. I was in a meeting, the local plan review working party some weeks ago, and I mentioned this, that if you open up straight onto the website, you'll find that you can renew a library book, that you can find out what day your bin is being collected, but you haven't half got to dig down to find a local plan review context. And I think that's one thing that can be amended and should be amended. So it's much easier to go on a website and find a local plan review. There we go. Right, okay. But there are only 6 weeks left on this consultation. And you can do like we do in Hessel and stick out a leaflet to everybody in Hessel so that they know. I know some places, the Halton Price settlements, Beverley, Driffield, Howden particularly, Goole particularly, for the different reason, will all be keen to respond to this. So, as Councillor Tucker says, it's down to us to make sure that people are aware of it, but also down to our officers to make sure they can do their best as well. Thank you, Chair. I hope you can support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. And we have another speaker with a question, which is Councillor Linda Bayram, please.
Thank you, Chair. Tomorrow morning, the Howden and Howdenshire ward councillors are meeting with officers to discuss the allocations in our areas. I don't know if all other councillors are having meetings with officers, because I personally have been asking questions about our allocations, and I don't know if this has come about because of this, or whether they plan to speak to every ward in the area, because it would be a good idea. Sometimes you can read things, but it's very difficult to understand it unless you have somebody there to tell you exactly what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Healy, would you like to close the debate, please?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, councillors, for those comments. Just to take one or two of the points that you've all made. Councillor Bayram, a very valid point. Obviously, people will have an opportunity to have an influence on planning applications, but the motion talks about the influence on proposed housing allocations, and that this really is their opportunity to do that, and that once we pass the 6th of August, they won't be able to do that again. Councillor Tucker, absolutely agree 100%. We do have a role as parish councillors. You talked about radio interviews. I've been on the radio talking about this. The portfolio holder said he had as well. Leaflets, letters. We must all do that, and we must all play a part in doing that. Those are the comments I think that Councillor McMaster said. He said that we'd done a lot. But I appreciate that you said that you'd take a look at this, and obviously the time is of the essence. We can do more. We have talked about this opportunity in this. This went out to everybody at the start of the whole thing, and it's tiny, tucked away. So there are more things that we could do. And on the Council Linda Bayram, yes, planning officers are being proactive, talking to councillors, and that's part of it. I'm talking about reaching a wider public in the East Riding, the whole of all the residents. In fact, Beverley Town Council met with planning officers this very day, actually, on planning issues. And in fact, I put out a leaflet telling people about this. And in Beverley, there's been some comments back from residents about Woodensey and councillors, Mr. Woodensey councillors will be aware of this as well, the proposed development of Victoria Road, which again is one of the ones that's in the local plan. Residents have picked up on it and they want to have a say on it, and that's absolutely right. So those are my concluding comments. Thank you for a good discussion. I hope you'll be able to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now take the vote on the motion. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. That has been carried. I would like to thank you all. That concludes the meeting today. But could I remind you to please remain seated until we have confirmed that the live streaming has been stopped. And we will need to leave one row at a time, please.
Stop streaming. Yeah, streaming stopped.
Streaming has stopped. Thank you. Who's going to decide who?